Good evening, everyone in the gallery and those joining us online this evening. My name is Councillor Mohammed Semra, Mayor of Maribyrnong City Council, and I welcome everyone to the April 2026 Council meeting. I declare the meeting opened at 6:31 p.m. Maribyrnong City Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land, the Wurundjeri, Wurrung and Bunurong peoples of the Kulin Nation, and pays its respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I remind everyone to switch phones off or turn to silent. I advise the gallery that this meeting is being recorded and will be available on Council's website. All care is taken to maintain your privacy, however your presence may be recorded. In accordance with Council's governance rules, meetings may not be photographed, filmed or recorded without the consent of the Chief Executive Officer. CEO, have there been any requests to film?
Yes, Mayor. We have had one request from the ABC to film tonight's meeting. I would like to say that they won't be filming any of the public nor staff, and the purpose of the filming is not to have a story regarding the decisions of Council. It has another purpose.
I advise there are no apologies for tonight's meeting. Councillors, are there any leave of absence requests? In accordance with the Local Government Act 2020, do any councillors have a conflict of interest in relation to any of the agenda items? Yeah. Before we go into question time, I'd like to call for a councillor to move a motion to suspend standing orders to enable council to receive a presentation from Calvin Lavelle, Plenary Chair of the new Footscray Hospital. Susan?
That council suspends standing orders in order to receive a gift from Calvin Lavelle, Plenary Health.
Yep. Can I have a councillor second? Second. Councillor Lamb. I now put the motion to a vote. All councillors raise your hand. I declare the motion carried. I'd like to invite Calvin to the lectern to speak.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Councillors, for the opportunity to make a short presentation to you this evening. My name is Calvin Lavelle. I'm Chair of the Plenary Health New Footscray Hospital project, the consortium responsible for the successful delivery of the facility. For those of you who don't know, the New Footscray Hospital is the largest hospital build ever undertaken in Victoria, completed on time and on budget earlier this year. At the risk of stating the obvious, successful delivery of a significant project like this takes many partners, many committed partners. This presentation today serves to extend our thanks to the Mayor, Councillors and staff of the City of Maribyrnong, whose expertise, guidance and partnership helped bring the New Footscray Hospital to a successful delivery. It also acknowledges the licence local citizens gave us to get on with the building the project and the patience they demonstrated over 5 years of construction. Please accept this framed photo of the completed facility as a token of Plenary Health's appreciation for the support and partnership by the Council and its officers.
Calvin, if you'd like to come up and present to the Mayor, that would be great.
Please come down. Thank you very much, Calvin, for your presentation. This is a significant milestone for our community as we celebrate the recent opening of the new Footscray Hospital, a landmark investment in the health, well-being and future of Melbourne's West. This hospital represents more than a building. It reflects a commitment to accessible, high-quality healthcare for our growing and diverse community. And we are a growing community. The City of Maribyrnong will increase its population by 51% by 2050. and it will play a vital role in supporting parents, families, and frontline health workers for generations to come. We are proud to see Footscray continue to grow as a major health, education, and employment precinct, and we welcome the positive impact this hospital will have on local jobs, training opportunities, and community well-being. On behalf of Melbourne City Council, I want to acknowledge everyone involved in bringing this project to life. I congratulate all those involved and look forward to seeing the lasting benefits this new hospital will deliver for our community. For those that do not know, before I joined council, I was a part of a Footscray community project, highlighting the voices in the community. And my portrait alongside Councillor Lambs as well is now a permanent presence in the emergency centre. So if anyone was to ever, and I hope you don't ever have to visit the Footscray Hospital, be sure to see the many stories of Footscray. I'd now like to call a councillor to move a motion to resume standing orders. Councillor Tawari. Thank you, Councillor Tawari. Can I call upon Councillor to second the motion? Susan, and I'll put the motion to the vote. I would declare the motion carried. We now move to public question time. Public question time is managed in accordance with Council's governance rules. Members of the public can submit a maximum of 3 questions prior to the commencement of the meeting. As chair, I will decide who answers the question. Public question time is limited for 15 minutes unless councillors consent to an extension. We'll get straight into it. Our first question from Elizabeth Proctor. The Urban Forest Strategy Action 2.2 is to reduce paved hard surface areas in streets. For example, narrower road lanes, larger vegetated areas. Why was Dudley Street Footscray rebuilt in 2023 given no nature strips? The footpath is 230 centimetres wide, 120 centimetres past tree pits. Can I get a director to respond, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The reconstruction of this section of Dudley Street enabled additional tree planting to take place in what is now a widened footpath. This additional tree planting within cut-out areas of the asphalt path resulted in an overall reduction in the hard surface, which is consistent with the Urban Forest Strategy Action Plan. As part of the redevelopment, 14 poorly formed street trees were removed between Essex Street and Barclay Street. And to offset this loss, 33 new trees were planted in purpose-built form.
Thank you, Patrick. 2, what templates or design rules are used when rebuilding local streets, footpath and road width, plantings and nature strips? And can they be made available to confirm their alignment with the Urban Forest Strategy and other council policies?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, so the Maribyrnong Council City Design Manual is the guiding document utilised when constructing or improving footpaths. This document is available on Council's website, noting that the document is currently being reviewed to ensure consistency with other council strategies and policies that have been adopted post its creation.
Oh, thanks. Question 3, the tree management policy has a benchmark. Sorry. The lights just turned on.
Is the live
off.
stream still working?
Okay, we have a live stream back and we will continue with question time. Have I asked question
Number 2.
3? The tree management policy has a benchmark of at least 1 tree in the nature strip or in front of every property. Why were residents on Dudley Street, Footscray permitted to decline a tree pit in front of their property to to the detriment of others. Patrick?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So in regards to this particular project, residents were consulted via a letterbox drop, which provided an opportunity to give feedback on the proposed tree planting locations. And through this process, residents were able to request the exclusion of tree planting. It's important to note that this project was designed and delivered prior to the adoption of Council's Tree Management Policy 2025. Under current policy settings, Council does aim to plant and establish a street tree outside every residential property where suitable space exists, so where that's possible, to ensure a more consistent tree canopy.
Yep. Thank you, Patrick. We have a question from Jessica Stebhens. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Question 1, I love the new park at the end of Austin Street. It is so good to see a new public space with seating for the community together. My only request would be for Council to consider allowing right turn at the intersection of Walter and Albert Street. Given Austin Street is closed, can this be done? I'm going to get Director of Infrastructure to respond.
Thank you, Mayor, and great to see the new park being enjoyed. The current left-only turn at Walter Street, Albert Street intersection is a measure put in place to prevent through traffic from using Walter Street to bypass queues that sometimes form at peak periods on Buckley Street. Changes to traffic patterns will be monitored during the trial closure of Austin Street, and once this trial is complete and relevant traffic data is collected, further assessments and engagement with residents will occur before any further decisions or changes are made.
Yep. Thank you. We have a question from David Healing. Question 1, access to the new Footscray Hospital from the Turan Street tram stop or adjacent bus stops requires crossing Droop Street, which is often difficult given the flow of traffic. Will Council install a signalised pedestrian crossing at this junction? Patrick?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. So I can confirm Council is currently working with the Department of Transport and Planning, DTP, and also Yarra Trams on the proposed tram stop upgrades along the Route 82 tram corridor, which does include Droop Street in Footscray. As part of the upgrades, each new fully accessible stop will feature a signalised pedestrian crossing to access both ends of the stop platforms. Droop Street on the other side of Tinner Street is proposed to have a signalised pedestrian crossing to access the new tram stops. DTP is constructing these stops and associated crossings later in 2026, and officers would be happy to forward the website address containing further information. And I should just add that that particular project is a state government and DTP responsible project.
Yep. Question 2, what is currently stopping Footscray Park's Thompson Water Gardens from being reopened in their current state? Question 3 is similar, so we'll ask it together. When will Footscray Park's Thompson Water Gardens be reopened? Patrick?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, yes, pleased to confirm that the contract to restore the Footscray Park's Thompson Water Gardens has recently been awarded, and so the works will commence shortly now in the next couple of weeks and take approximately 6 to 9 months to complete.
Yep. Thank you, Patrick. I know many in the community are eagerly waiting for the Thompson Water Gardens to open, and we will update the community as we progress. A question from Tim Liang. 1, what is the justification for engaging with the Israeli company Lynx site at the Malbonong pool? Its co-founder Omar Bar-Lan is also the co-founder of Kelar Technologies, another Israeli defense company that boasts battle-tested tech for modern warfare. With the recent developments, war in Iran versus Israel versus US, I don't think in good conscience we should be engaging with these people. Can I get Lucas to respond, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. Council procured the Lynxite Artificial Intelligence Drowning Detection and Prevention System in 2024 to enhance safety for its users at the Maribyrnong Aquatic Centre. Linksight is an aquatic safety technology provider that has a formal strategic collaboration with Royal Lifesaving Australia, focused on drowning prevention and aquatic facility safety. The AI system supports lifeguards by providing continuous real-time monitoring of swimming activity, automated alerts where a swimmer may be in distress, and safety analytics to assist in improving preventative practices. The technology has contributed positively to aquatic safety at the Maribyrnong Aquatic Centre. Council was not previously aware nor has identified any evidence that Linksight is involved in the manufacture or supply of weapons, nor that the services contracted by Council support any military activity. Council previously considered broader ethical and human rights procurement matters through the notice of motion submitted in November 2023, entitled Supporting Peace in Gaza and Palestine. This review did not result in the cessation of any existing contractual arrangements for reasons outlined in that Council report. As with all procurement activities, Council manages its contracts in accordance with legislative, contractual and governance requirements, and will review this specific contractual arrangement at the conclusion of the current contract term.
Thank you, Lucas. We have a question from Chloe Robinson. 1, I was issued a parking fine after the Easy Park app failed to work, requiring payment to be made over the phone. The fine was issued and refused to be withdrawn. Can Council explain why drivers are penalised when payment delays are caused by app failures beyond their control? Can I get Director of Planning and Environment to answer, please?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. When reviewing an infringement, Council considers all information provided, including any matters raised about payment systems, and each request is assessed on a case-by-case basis. Where an infringement is not withdrawn, the response outlines the reasons for that decision. I can also add that we've, since this question, we've been able to get in touch with Ms Robinson, and we're actively reviewing this matter as well.
Yep. We have a question from Edward Merrifield. 1, I would like to ask the following questions regarding the Mayor's recent trip to Canberra. What was the total cost of the Mayor's trip to Canberra, including flights, accommodation, and any other associated expenses funded by ratepayers? Can I get Lucas to please respond?
Thank you, Mayor, through you, and thanks to Mr Merrifield for your question. The total cost of all councillor expenses are publicly tabled regularly in the councillor expenses report, which appears at regular meetings. In fact, we've got a report for Q2 coming up later in tonight's meeting. With respect to the recent MAV trip to Canberra, I can't give the exact specific number tonight, but we can estimate that the total cost of domestic economy flights, accommodation and other expenses to be around about $1,900, but we need to confirm that. The final accurate figure will be fully tabled in a future council expenses report as part of the usual public accountability reporting process.
Thank you, Lucas. Question 2, given that councillors and the Mayor are scheduled to attend the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly in June, was there a reason this visit could not be scheduled to coincide with that trip to minimise costs? Can I also get Lucas to please respond?
Thank you, Mayor. So the Mayor's visit to Canberra was undertaken as part of the Municipal Association of Victoria, or MAV mayoral delegation, held from the 30th of March to the 1st of April this year. The delegation was scheduled independently of and for different purpose than the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly, which will be held in June. The timing of the March delegation was driven by the availability of federal government representatives and a coordinated sector-wide program of advocacy led by the MAV. As a result, it was not practical to delay nor combine the visit with the upcoming Albert Conference. The Mayor visited Canberra as part of the delegation in the interests of pursuing the many advocacy priorities that Council and the community have asked us to progress.
Yeah, thank you. I'll also note I had the privilege to attend Canberra alongside 2 fellow mayors to represent Victorian councils, all 79 Victorian councils at a federal level, meeting with different ministers, putting forward the federal election campaign, and we were speaking about social cohesion, misinformation, disinformation. We were talking about the importance of community infrastructure for a growing population. We're speaking about the impacts of natural disasters, and all of the advocacy that we were putting to the surface of the political debate are things that residents in Maribyrnong tell me time and time again. We'll go question 3. Were alternative options such as conducting the meeting via video conference considered prior to approving travel? If so, what factors led to the decision that in-person attendance was necessary? Can I please get Lucas to respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you once again. So, of course, Council does consider options around online meetings, and I'm sure it's not a surprise to anyone to say that online meetings do occur on a regular basis. However, in this instance, the Mayor's attendance was part of a coordinated in-person delegation of a number of Victorian mayors designed to engage directly with Commonwealth decision-makers on shared advocacy priorities. Given the nature of the discussions and the objectives of the delegation, in-person participation was considered the most effective means of representing Council and the broader local government sector.
Thank you, Lucas. We've gone over time, councillors, so with the consent of council, I wish to propose an extension to public question time for 15 minutes. Councillors, do I have your consent? Yep. Thank you, councillors. We'll now continue with public questions. We have a question from Ken Betts. Question 1, Footscray CBD place management model sounds like administration, coordination, and no immediately visible outcomes. Footscray already has ongoing issues. My questions are, how much is this costing ratepayers and what tangible improvements will we actually see? Can I please get Director for Planning and Environment to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed place management and activation program for the Footscray CBD is part of Council's Footscray revitalisation program informed by the Footscray Place Plan. And as outlined in the report before you tonight, the cost is under $450,000 per year to deliver a visible on-street council presence that improves people's everyday experience of Footscray.
Question 2 from Ken Betts. Why are we funding another model instead of fixing safety and cleanliness issues now? Can I please get Director of Planning and Environment to respond?
Thank you, Mayor. Working on safety and cleanliness is ongoing, but this model addresses the gap of placing staff on the ground every day to identify issues early and to ensure that they're resolved quickly through coordinated action.
Question 3, who is accountable if this doesn't improve conditions in Footscray?
Thank you, Mayor. Council remains accountable for matters within its remit. With the model currently going through community consultation ahead of a final decision in June, Council will employ metrics as well to track performance of the program and will adjust accordingly.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. We have a question from Madeline Searle. Question 1, hundreds of homes in Edgewater, homes downstream and many commercial properties are now at new greater major flood risk under 2024 Melbourne water flood modelling. Planning scheme amendments are underway. What actions has Council taken to inform owners and residents of this? Can I please get Director of Planning and Environment to respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. As noted, this is a Melbourne water project which is going through a planning scheme amendment process. Owners and residents will be notified and engaged by Melbourne Water through that process, but it hasn't reached that stage yet. And to avoid any potential confusion around this process, Council won't be notifying or consulting with owners and residents, given that we're not the project owner, and it's not reached consultation stage. Information, though, of the project can be found on Melbourne Water's website.
Thank you, Mike. Question 2 from Madeline. Council's October 23 Municipal Emergency Management Plan has had an out-of-date flood and storm emergency subplan since before Melbourne floods in 2022. The current MEMP states the subplan will be revised over the next 3 years. What is the status of the subplan?
Thank you, Mayor. The Municipal Storm and Flood Plan was reviewed in 2024 and is current. The plan is owned by Vic SES and not the Council. It is a complementary plan of the Municipal Emergency Management Plan. We have a question from Shifra Bluestein. Question 1. Over 100 Melbourne residents wrote to councillors in support of a motion for council to take practical, lawful, leading action to avoid financial supporting companies profiting from human rights atrocities in Palestine. Do councillors now plan to move this motion? I will read the following questions as they relate to each other. Question 2, the motion calls for council to no longer contract with Caltex and HP companies, and companies the UN Special Rapporteur's recent report highlighted as amongst those most implicated in Israel's genocide.
What action is Council taking in line with these international law obligations? And question 3, the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement is a non-violent Palestinian civil society-led global effort to end the commercial viability of complicity in Israel's war crimes. Does Council support BDS and human rights compliant procurement? And if so, what is it doing to implement? Can I get the Director of Corporate Services to respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, and thanks for this very important question. So I certainly can't speak to the potential future motions of the Council. That's a matter for the Councillor Group. However, I'll certainly speak with respect to procurement matters. And I'd just like to reiterate some of the responses that I've previously given on these matters. Maribyrnong City Council acknowledges the strong community interest and ethical and human rights awareness in procurement. Council's procurement activities are undertaken in accordance with the Procurement Policy 2025 and relevant legislation, including the Local Government Act, the Victorian Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act 2006 and the Competition and Consumer Act 2010. These frameworks require Council to act lawfully, fairly and without unlawful discrimination. Council has previously considered ethical and human rights related procurement matters through a notice of motion from November 2023 entitled Supporting Peace in Gaza and Palestine. As part of that process, officers undertook a detailed desktop review informed by the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights database to assess whether Council had existing contracts or creditors captured by that material. At that time, the review found that Council had no current creditors or contracts identified in the UN database, and therefore no such contracts required cancellation at that time. Council does not have a specific contract with either HP or Caltex. Whilst Council does have a number of IT assets purchased previously from HP, future purchases are likely to be made from different suppliers based on the operational needs of the business. Post-review, Council also noted the significant legal probity and operational risks in attempting to independently verify information and based on the external database on complex global supply chains without specialist expertise or further detailed legal advice, which would come at considerable expense. Council's current approach remains to apply its procurement policy, including its commitment to social outcomes and respect for human rights within the limits of Council's role, capacity and legislative obligations.
Thank you, Lucas. Yep.
Can I say something? Sure.
Yep, go on.
Sorry, is Shifra in the audience? Hello, Shifra. I suppose I just really wanted to take a moment to say and acknowledge, I guess to say thanks for reaching out to Council and just acknowledge that we did meet with you guys late last year to hear about, the concerns of Maribyrnong for Palestine and the actions that we were asked to take. I suppose just for the community more broadly, I also just wanted to acknowledge that equally at a similar time, we did also meet with another community member who came to Council and to express their concerns and basically shared some instances of discrimination and essentially that they'd also been attacked, as a result of their heritage and being of Jewish faith. And I just really wanted to reiterate to our community that as Council, we do listen to the views across our community and recognise that people hold different perspectives on these issues and just, I guess make sure the community understands that we're very committed to supporting members of our community and fostering respectful dialogue. I also want to reiterate that within the scope of our role as local government that we will continue to, and we are always actively looking for, best ways to be able to support our community and to address any concerns that the community has raised. So just wanted to acknowledge, I guess that, you guys reaching out to us, taking the time to meet with us and just reiterating that, we do get, lots of different perspectives and we're always trying to, find the best way possible to be able to support our community, and we will continue to do so as well.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. We'll move on to a question by Mariah Bakers-Hong. Question 1, regarding the recently closed tender for the demolition of David House at 1 Little David Street, Yarraville, could Council please provide an estimated start date for these works? Can I get Lucas to please respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. So, Council, I'm pleased to report Council's evaluation panel is currently reviewing submissions received during the tender process. It's expected that a contract will be awarded for the demolition of these buildings at the end of May 2026. Demolition works are then expected to commence in the first quarter of next financial year and hopefully to be completed by December 2026.
Thank you. Question 2. Additionally, once the existing building is removed, what are the immediate and future plans for the site? Will it be secured as a vacant lot, or is there a confirmed timeline for the commencement of the new community infrastructure intended for this location? Can also get Director of Corporate Services to respond.
Thanks, Mayor, and through you. So Council is currently undertaking the Yarrawal Precinct Community Needs Analysis and Feasibility Study, which will involve community engagement and to inform future community needs and uses for Little David House and other community facilities in Yarrawal. The feasibility study is expected to be completed later in 2026. Correspondence will be sent out to the surrounding community once a contract has been awarded for the demolition component to inform community of expected dates for demolition works as well and expected dates for the completion of the feasibility study.
Thank you. We have a question from Thomas Foreman. 1. I respectfully request that the original questions be answered directly and in full. If public question time is to serve its intended purpose, it must provide a genuine mechanism for accountability rather than a procedural formality in which substantive responses are avoided. Can I please get Director of Corporate Services to respond?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, this question comes up a lot. So Council has responded to the 3 questions submitted by Mr Foreman at the last meeting of April 2026 Council meeting. Therefore, Council will decline this question under clause 52.9 of Council's governance rules as the content is considered similar and not materially different to a question that has been previously submitted to a Council meeting and has been responded to within the last 3 months.
Yep. Question 2 from Thomas Foreman. Given that this does not appear to be isolated occurrence, will Council commit to undertaking a review of the governance and administration of the public question time process with a view to ensuring transparency, accountability and meaningful engagement with the community?
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, yes is the short answer. Council currently manages its public question time in accordance with Council's governance rules and the principles of the Local Government Act 2020. A broad review of Council's governance rules, including public question time, will occur following the State Government's finalisation of its model governance rules scheduled for late 2026.
All right. Thank you, Lucas. With that being said, public question time is now closed at 7:03. We'll now move to agenda item 6.1, confirmation of minutes. Can I call for a councillor to move a motion? Councillor Meredith.
Thank you. That Council confirms the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 17th of March 2026.
Can I call for a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Lamb. I'll now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. Show of hands. Yep, I declare the motion carried. Councillors, I'm advised that there are no reports for committees to be tabled at the meeting. I also advise there are no petitions to be tabled at this meeting. We'll now move to agenda item 9.1, submission of Ministerial Planning Application PA 2604231, NEXTDC expansion. I'll call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yengi.
That Council notes the submission made to Ministerial Planning Application PA 2604231, shown at Attachment 1, issued by Council officers under delegation on 31st March 2026.
I'll call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Tawari. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Sure, I will just say a couple of brief things. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging and thanking our officers for their swift and diligent work in responding to this planning application. The timeframe provided was extremely limited, restricting both our ability to prepare a comprehensive response and to undertake meaningful community consultation. I also wish to acknowledge and thank the community members who took the time to prepare and submit feedback on this application under those constraints. I was very grateful to have had the opportunity to do a site tour at NEXTDC to better understand their operations as well as their proposed next phase of development. And while I recognise the economic contribution this business makes to the Victorian economy and to our community, I am equally mindful of the significant and lasting impacts this proposal presents for our local community. Many of you who may have read the agenda and potential information there, councils outlined in the submission to the Planning Minister officers have formally objected to the application, citing substantial environmental impacts on Stony Creek. This is a major concern for us as councillors, and we would value the opportunity to constructively work with the applicant NEXTDC on ways in which, I guess, ours and the residents' concerns can be addressed. Also, should the Minister determine to approve the application, I hope that the Minister will consider the comprehensive set of recommendations, recommended conditions, that Council has put forward to mitigate the impacts as much as possible.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank many of the residents who took the time to lodge submissions and share their concerns, including those who contacted me and Council directly. Community engagement at this level is very important and should be recognised. So thank you, guys. I also note the advocacy from our local member, Katie Hall, in writing to the Minister, Melissa Horn, and I sincerely hope that the collective voice of residents, council and community leaders is carefully considered as part of the decision-making process. And it's quite clear, as Councillor Yengi stated, from both the officer report and the community feedback, that there are genuine concerns around amenity, environmental impact and the interface with Stony Creek. I do think it's important to say that where developments of this scale are proposed, the standard must be very high, not just in design, but in how proponents engage with and respect the local community. Concerns raised around construction impacts, including recent night works, highlight the need for better communication and sensitivity to residents. Regardless of the outcome of this application, I would strongly encourage NEXTDC to work closely with our council officers and the local community to ensure that their existing operations and any future works are managed in a way that minimises disruption and builds trust. And at the end of the day, developments like this need to coexist with the community, and that requires genuine collaboration, not just compliance. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tiwari. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Meredith.
Thank you. Thank you to the officers for the fabulous submission there as well. And thank you to all the community members that have spent time and written the objections as well. We've received many, I think it was around 81 or something like that, which is fantastic. So when fully grown, so I'm going to take some items from the actual agenda and also mention some of the things that the community have mentioned as well, out of respect of their voice. So when fully grown, this data centre will consume around 6 million litres of potable or drinking quality water. It's going to run 24 hours a day, generating light, sound and heat, using lots of amounts of water and electricity. This, I saw a quote of 2,600 residents, 1,041 homes. The expansion includes around 100 diesel backup generators across the site at full build-out. So, and that's about 1.16 million litres of diesel storage based on their submission there. So I have concerns about the diesel emissions. The community has concerns about that as well. The proposal places built form close to the waterway, and that waterway is Stony Creek, which needs to be protected. So it's going to increase overshadowing as it is. There's going to be possibly potential stormwater runoff there. And we really don't want to see the Stony Creek being polluted. So there is a risk of pollution with the way that is designed. So there's been no cumulative assessment there as well for the area, looking at all of the impacts around as well. So the light, the diesel, the noise, the sound, Stony Creek. And AI is here, but we need sensible standards and regulation. We need to protect people, wildlife and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Pereira.
Thank you, yes. Yes, I also just want to thank the community for all of the emails that we've received and recognise that it takes considerable effort to engage in these processes. And from the correspondence we've received, it's clear that the community feels once again very sidelined by the fast-tracked state government process and the contracted timelines and the limited resident notice area. Thank you to the officers for putting together the submission on behalf of council and the community. I just wanted to highlight similarly the considerable concern the community expressed for Stony Creek, a small but mighty and much loved waterway that's had its fair share of ill treatment, decades of industrial pollution, and a relatively recent catastrophic illegal factory fire, and now this. The first phase of the data centre got to ignore the proximity to the creek, citing that technically their boundary didn't touch the creek, and yet now, when it does, there's no consideration for the state government's strengthened controls designed to ensure more responsible protection and stewardship. I'll be interested to see if the government stands by their own strengthened controls designed to protect our treasured waterways. Communities also raised concerns about diesel, as Councillor Meredith raised. The trucks have barely left and the data centres are already here. Energy consumption, water consumption, an urban heat island, and kind of most absurd, a building that is designed to stay cool, and yet it's painted black just to match a logo. I mean, it's just so basic. But the strategic thinking just isn't happening, far from it. And that's why last year I put up a motion to the MAV for the state government to develop a strategic framework for data centres to be located in circular economy precincts. This community has said that they're not against industry, local jobs or change, but there needs to be an opportunity for agency and pride and inviting businesses with local and global social civic responsibility and not just extractive behaviour. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Thomas.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you for the other councillors for their comments, and I totally support what they've said. I just wanted to really pick up on two things. One, I think, is the fast-track planning approval process, which, in the report it says that there were 81 objections from the community, but the time that was allowed or given to council to prepare this very comprehensive submission was not long enough, really, to do justice to what will be such a large impact on our environment and the local community surrounding the NEXTDC site. And the objections from the community really express their desire to live in a healthy and a vibrant community and environment where their voice matters on issues that will impact on the places they live, work and play. And by including this project in the fast-track process, it really highlights that there's a flaw in that system, because it definitely doesn't give council or the community enough time to comprehensively respond to something of this scale. And the second thing, which the other councillors have highlighted, is the significant landscape overlay, which was approved by Parliament as recently as December 2025. Now, this is one of the first tests, I think, that I can recall of this legislation. Clearly, the application does not meet the requirements of the SLO. And should this application be approved, it completely undermines government's intention in bringing in the significant landscape overlay, and it also has the potential to have an impact on any future application where the SLO should be applied across not just the Maribyrnong River and the Stony Creek, but across 18 other waterways across Greater Melbourne, because those SLOs were brought in on those 18 waterways, some of them rivers, most of them creeks, and if this one gets through, then there's no stopping any other applicant from pointing to this application and saying, well, the government approved that, why aren't you going to approve our application, even though it doesn't meet the requirements of the SLO? So I've got a real worry that this just sets a negative precedent for applicants just putting in applications that they know don't meet those requirements and just hoping that the government will, tick the box and say they're approved. So, yeah, again, support the thanks to the community for taking the time to put in the submissions and also for our officers for creating such a comprehensive submission.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Then, with that being said, I'll probably say a few words. I want to say that we recognise the role data infrastructure plays in supporting Victoria's economy, but this proposal, in Council's view, does not adequately reflect the protection of the surrounding environment, especially Stoney Creek. As councillors have mentioned, we are also very aware of community concerns. Local residents are concerned about construction impacts and what this level of development means for their neighbourhood. Not every issue raised is something the planning system can resolve, but it is important that it is heard and considered. Our objection sets out where we believe the proposal does not meet planning requirements. There are some elements we support in principle, including proposed public realm improvements, and we have sought to strengthen as recommended conditions if a planning permit is issued by the Minister. This is not about opposing development, it's about making sure it is appropriate for its location. We will continue to advocate for an outcome that better protects Stoney Creek and responds to the expectations of the community. I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.1, consideration of the proposed budget. I'll call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Lam.
Official recommendation that Council number 1 approve in principle the proposed budget 2026-27 shown at attachment 1. Number 2, inhibit the proposed budget 2026-27, invite feedback on the proposed budget, and hear any person who has requested to be heard in support of the formal feedback. God, sorry, my computer dead. Okay. The feedback on the proposed budget at the meeting to be held on the 25th of May 2026 at the Town Hall, corner of Napier and High Street, Footscray. Note that the proposed budget 2026-27, including A, passing through the rate cap of 2.75%, which is set by the Victorian Government. B, a municipal charge of $20 per each ratepayer property for the rating period. C, no increasing a waste service charge. D, an increasing to the council pensioner rate rebate of $6.30. E, borrowing of $15 million for the Rake West Footscray and Shorten Reserve Development Capital Project. F, drawn down of 7.146 million from the open space reserved for open space improvement, and new capital and assets improvement and investment of active for 42 million to maintain, redevelop and improving service and assets. Number 4, not a report on public feedback, submission and recommendation to adopt the proposed budget will be considered at the council meeting on the 16th of June 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Yengi. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, briefly, Mayor. Mayor, Councillor, that I move that Council adopt the 2026-27 annual budget, which allocating $245.28 million to support services and infrastructure for nearly 94,650 residents, aligned with our council plan. And this budget invests $152.8 million in the ongoing delivery of core services and $91.5 million in the capital work that our community rely on every day, that including road, footpath, building and community facility. With capital work planning equality, across our municipality. The key initiative, including delivering the Putting Customer First, which you will hear tonight, strategy to improving accessibility and simplify service channel, progressing the Footscray structure plan, and completing year 2 of the request Footscray and Shorten Reserve redevelopment. We also strengthening connectivity through the Maribyrnong integrating transport strategy and investing in active transport, including 2.882 million overall, with 10202 million for bike and pedestrian path design and construction, and 1 million for the footpath renewal. So this is a responsible, community-focused budget, and I commend it to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Sure. I just want to begin by thanking Mark, who isn't here today, but he's one of our finance managers, and his team for the tremendous work that has gone into preparing this draft budget. Many people may not realise this, but the budget process actually starts in late November and involves months of detailed planning, testing, assumptions, and difficult decisions to reach the position that we're presenting today. We're also acutely aware of the current economic climate and know that many people in our community are doing it tough. So with that in mind, Council has worked very hard to deliver a balanced budget that responds to cost pressures while maintaining services the community relies on. This has not been without its challenges, particularly as the cost of delivering services continues to rise year on year to meet growing community need. You'll note, as Cook read out above, that we have passed on the rate cap of 2.75%, which is lower than in previous years, and hopefully this will minimise the financial impact or some financial impact on households while still allowing council to continue operating responsibly. I also just wanted to call out specifically that this year we've also been able to increase our community grants pool by approximately $50,000. And whilst this may seem like a modest amount to some, we know that for grassroots and volunteer-led organisations, this funding can make a meaningful difference and supports the vital work that they do across our community. So I just want to encourage our community to review and provide feedback on the draft, and let us know if we've missed anything, and more importantly, if you think that we got the balance right.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tuari.
Yeah, I just wanted to also acknowledge the significant work that's gone into preparing this budget by all involved, including officers, councillors, and all the people out there as well. We know many of our residents are facing real cost of living pressures, so it's important that every decision we make reflects that reality. And for me, the key focus is ensuring that we're delivering strong value for money, making responsible trade-offs, and continuing to find efficiencies wherever possible. I think it's important that we're transparent about those trade-offs, clear on what residents can expect, and confident that our capital works and services are being delivered effectively. So overall, I'm supportive of the direction of this budget, and I think these are the type of questions that help us continue to strengthen it for our community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tuari. Would any other councillor like to speak to the budget? Councillor Thomas.
Sorry, thanks. I just wanted to add one thing to the conversation, is that council's in a strong financial position compared to a lot of other councils around the state, and that's, thanks to good decision-making, I think, by the councillors, but also good decision-making by and recommendations to council by our officers. And that stable financial position allows us to do things like borrowing money for investing in community infrastructure, and this year, that's the Request Footscray and Shorten Reserve project, but we can't do that unless we've got a really stable underpinning and making those sensible decisions, so we can do what Councillor Yengi says is continue to invest over time in community assets. So.
Thank you for highlighting that, Councillor Thomas. We are indeed one of the most financially sustainable councils in Victoria, and that does come to good decision making. Councillors and community members, tonight I'm pleased to support Council's proposed annual budget At its heart, a local government budget is about choices and priorities. It is how we turn our council plan into action, investing in essential services, looking after the places people rely on every day, and ensuring we manage public funds responsibly and sustainably. It balances the needs of today with the needs of the future. This year's proposed budget is shaped by strong feedback from our community. Earlier engagement told us that people value well-maintained neighbourhoods, quality community facilities, green spaces, and a vibrant and welcoming city centre. In response, this budget proposes significant investment across both services and infrastructure. It includes major upgrades to community facilities such as Rec West and Shorten Reserve, continued investment in the Melbourne Aquatic Centre, including a family-friendly attraction, and almost $6 million of works in the Footscray CBD to support the community and local businesses and improve the public realm. We are also proposing ongoing funding for parks and gardens, ensuring our open spaces remain safe, accessible and enjoyable, alongside a broader capital works program that focuses on renewing assets and delivering long-term value for the community. These investments sit alongside Council's everyday services, things like waste collection, libraries, customer services, community support and local planning. The services residents interact with every day and expect to be reliable and responsive. The proposed budget means we can continue to deliver essential and innovative services to meet the changing needs of the community, all within the very modest rate cap. Importantly, tonight is not the final decision. From this evening, the proposed budget goes out for further community consultation. Over the coming weeks, residents, businesses, and community organisations are invited to review and provide further feedback. We'll also be hosting in-person sessions and providing online information to ensure the consultation process is accessible and inclusive. Feedback will be carefully considered before Council deliberates and adopts the final budget in June this year. So I encourage everyone to take the time to review the proposed budget and share their views. Community input plays a vital role in shaping decisions and strengthening transparency and accountability. I commend the draft budget to you all for adoption. I thank you all to the staff, particularly those in the finance, as mentioned before, Mark, I think he has photographic memory, engagement and assets team for all the extensive work in preparing this draft. It's been a journey since November. A lot of work goes behind this, and I am extremely proud, and I know the councillors are, to be sending this out to the community, and we want to know what you have to say. I will now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.2, proposed place management and activation model for the Footscray CBD. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Thomas.
That Council endorse the proposed place management and activation model, brackets Footscray Welcome Crew, to support a vibrant and prosperous Footscray activity centre for the purposes of community consultation and engagement. 2, endorse the proposed approach to community consultation and engagement around the proposed Footscray Welcome Crew model. And 3, note that a further report will be prepared for Council following the community consultation and engagement process and present the final model for endorsement with a view for it commencing from 1 July 2026.
I'll call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Yengi. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yep, just say a few words. I think that this proposal that the officers have prepared for us shows Council listening to the community and considering their input, and also taking on board councillor input into this program. And I know probably a lot of councillors will want to speak to it, so I just want to raise one thing which I know was raised with me, a concern from the community, and that's around the community development, model, which this program is grounded in. And we'll read from the council report that the model is grounded in asset-based community development principles, building upon the precinct's strengths, focusing on building trust, providing practical assistance and positive engagement. So I think if people take one thing away from this report, it's that it really is based in that asset-based process which values each person who comes before, or is part of the program, or where the program is trying to assist somebody. So I'm really pleased to see that as front and centre as part of the proposal that officers have brought to us. And the second thing, I think, is that the Community Development Officer role, that's one of the 2 new roles, which is really great to see, will help support that shared and equitable use of public space. So going back to, the idea that I think we all agree on, that Central Footscray belongs to everybody. It doesn't belong to one group or one individual or one type of person or one type of group. It belongs to everybody, and everybody should feel comfortable in using the space. So I'm really pleased to see that role is part of the new officer arrangement, and it's key to the success, I think, of the program, and that it will also link to those outreach programs that the Salvation Army is going to be leading, and the new Community Connectors program that will be led by Metro Trains as well. And it'll be very well linked through Council's homelessness network as well, which was established by Council last year with all of the homeless service providers that operate in Footscray. So I want to thank the officers, I want to thank the community as well, and I'm really looking forward to Council being able to get started on this project. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would the second like to speak to the motion?
Sure. Just a couple of things. So I know in February when we had that last meeting about where to next, I'd requested that, officers put together a report and bring it to the April meeting so we can get it out to community for consultation. So I'm really pleased that we're able to do that tonight, and want to thank the officers for putting together this draft proposal at a very, within a very short time frame. Just briefly echoing some of what Councillor Bernadette has said, but yeah, again, just reiterating to community, this is a first cut, and hopefully the community can get a sense and a feel for how we are looking to improve the vibrancy and productivity of Footscray Activity Centre. Emphasis on being more proactive and less reactive. I think it's really important, and I just want to call that out. This probably won't tick all the boxes for everybody, but we're hoping with community input we'll be able to create a model and build a balance that offers support to our rough sleepers, that supports traders via increased foot traffic, and also that encourages all Victorians to come check out why our city is so special. So I really want to encourage our community to provide their feedback to this so that we can collectively build a model that will work for everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion?
Yep.
Councillor Meredith?
I will be brief. So thank you to everybody in the community that has contributed. It's the community voice, the councillor's voice, the officer's voice that has created this program here. So I think Councillor Bernadette and Councillor Susan, they've said most things, but what I'm going to finish on is, because mine's going to be very short and sweet, is that I was having a chat to Liz who works at the Mechanics Institute, and she's been working there for quite a long time, and that voice was, Footscray will rise again, but we need to do it together. And that's the key there, that we need to, I don't want to get caught up in all of that divisiveness, is that we need to do this together. So everybody keep contributing your voice, keep working together on this. That's it, thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Meredith, and you've hit the nail on the head. Through collaboration, I think we can achieve a lot, and there's so much happening in Footscray. Council is very much committed to working with our stakeholders, working with service providers, and understanding what sits within our remit and how can we do that at a very high level. And I think we've started some great work, and I'm looking forward to hearing the community's ideas and thoughts around this, and how we can strengthen it and implementing it in the community. And there is a piece there around outreach, which I think is much needed. And there are great operators in this space and backed by a good budget. Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? Otherwise, yep, Councillor Pereira.
I just want to say that I'm excited to see that we're finally moving towards a more place-based, strengths-led, placemaking, placekeeping approach. I'm sad we had to go through the valley, but I'm hoping that we've built some institutional and kind of social ecosystem capacity, and we're kind of really on our way now. And what's next is to stop having to operate in a reactionary manner and to start working on more preventative infrastructure, more affordable housing, economic and civic, urban renewal and community-led initiatives that deliver community solidarity.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. I will now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Agenda item 10.3, putting customers first strategy. I call for a councillor to move a motion.
Excuse me, Mayor, could I just, before you do that, there has just been, we've just noticed there has been a bit of a complication on what was put and originally published. So could I defer to Lucas Gosling to discuss very
Clarify that for
briefly
you.
what we've done?
Thank you, CEO. Councillor, sorry, we've just noticed there's a slight version control error with the item that's been published on the papers. The one that we're going to consult on is not materially different. The content is all the same, but we have a graphically designed and a plain English version, which is what will be the subject of the community consultation. So we've just had to do a slight amendment to the proposed officer resolution for you.
Yeah. And that's all okay to proceed?
It's been circulated on separate cover, and as I said, the material is not different, and you're going out to consultation anyway, so it should be fine.
Yep. Okay. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Lamb.
If you can read the one on the... Yes, please. Thanks, Councillor.
Thank you. Yeah. Officer recommendation. That Council, number 1, endorse a draft Putting Customer First Strategy 2026-29 as circulating to councillors under separate cover for the purpose of community engagement. And number 2, notice that the detailed internal implementation plan and supporting policy will be developed and progressed separately and considered through normal council planning and budget processes.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, briefly. Well, firstly, I would like to thank you that the Director Lucas Gosling for the Customer and Corporate Service, and particularly the author Rebecca Solomon, Manager Customer Engagement, did working tirelessly to produce that document. I love that, put customer first. This is my favorite. 3-year strategy, 2026-29, the strategy that focuses on the customer experience and community feedback is make it easier for the resident customer access the service and get things done quickly without any culture and background. So if people are unable to communication, we always provide there's a service for them to raise their voice and concern and feedback. So we always ensure what is we said we do, we will, and with a clear time frame and a follow-up through the customer feel support and respected. Delivery service that are fair, open, and inclusive to the multi-customer, multi-resident community, and always listen. That's why we always there. So the customer and resident would like to have some input, feedback that please give us a call or email at any time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Yep. Would you like to speak to the motion?
I might.
Yep, Councillor
I'll
Inge.
just be really brief. just wanting to say that this strategy, well, I know that councils often get a bad rap, ours included, around customer service, and this is a topic that we're all really passionate about, and this strategy is our commitment to our community to improve the way that we engage with you. So we really value your input, and we would love to get, you know, as much input as possible towards this strategy, because this is the document that's going to keep us accountable to you as well.
Yep. Thank you so much, Councillor Yangi, and I agree. This report is about something simple but critical: how our community experiences council. Every year we receive more than 100,000 inquiries across phone, online, email, in person. Each of these interactions shape trust, confidence, and whether people feel council is easy to deal with. While we've made improvements, the reality is some residents still face barriers, whether that's inconsistent information, unclear timeframes, or not knowing who owns their issue. As expectations continue to evolve, we need to keep lifting our standard. The Putting Customers First Strategy 2026-2029 is about doing exactly that. It sets a clear direction for the next 3 years, grounded in community feedback, service data, and staff insights. At its core is a simple commitment: we are here to help. The commitment comes to life in 4 key areas: making it easier to access services, doing what we say we will do, ensuring our people take ownership and care of a growing and diverse community, and importantly, the strategy isn't just about better service. It's about delivering value for money. Tonight, we're not adopting the strategy yet. We're taking the important step of putting it out to community engagement. Because if this is about improving the customer experience, then our community should definitely be a part of that. And through our decision making, we want to always ensure that we're taking community with us on that journey. So, like all reports going out for consultation today, I do encourage anyone in the community to please have your say and help us build something that reflects your expectations and your experience. I will now put the motion to a vote. I declare, Councillor Lam, I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.4, Beevers and Bell Reserve Final Concept Design. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Pereira.
Is that working? That Council endorse the Beevers Reserve Final Concept Plan shown at Attachment 1, 2, endorse the Bell Reserve Final Concept Plan shown at Attachment 2, and 3, refer both projects to the budget process for future funding consideration.
Can I call on a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas, are there any questions or points for clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Sure. Yes, I just want to say thanks to all the community members who have contributed through the engagement process, and also thank you to the staff who have done an extensive job at reviewing all of that feedback and trying to address all the concerns raised, while and also enhancing all the things that people were enthusiastic about. I know that there have been concerns raised about the provision of the public toilet, and hopefully that you can see in the design and the maintenance program that Council has it as a priority to manage this facility so that it doesn't adversely impact hyperlocal residents, but also so that it enables the equitable participation of all community members, who many of whom need access to toilet facilities in order to enjoy public space. The delivery of these facilities is not in the short-term budget timeline, but is subject to future assessment and prioritisation via the public toilet plan. So we still have time to work with the community around how to best integrate this for everyone's benefit. Bell Reserve is also set to be upgraded, and I know that there's been concerns raised about traffic in the area. But given that it seems that there are already problems and no additional impacts have been flagged via the traffic assessment for this particular project, I do want to stress that local residents can please feel free to contact me, and the director's confirmed that he's happy to meet with me and local residents to discuss how to best manage any existing traffic issues across the precinct so that we can get ahead of it before this project comes down the line. Otherwise, I really hope that on balance, Kingsville residents are excited to see upgrades to these much-loved community parks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Would the second like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly to say that I'm particularly pleased with the Bell Reserve plans, because as a former resident of Kingsville, I've watched those two sites just be grassy landscapes with one of my friends and their kid kicking a footy around, for a few years, but nobody else really using them because they're not spaces that a lot of people can use. So the designs are lovely, and I think they'll be a real asset to our open space reserves in this part of Maribyrnong.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Tuari.
Yeah, I just wanted to note from the community engagement report, and as Councillor Pereira mentioned, that while there was strong participation with nearly 400 responses received, there were also significant concern raised by residents. For example, a majority of the respondents opposed certain elements such as the public toilets in Beevers Reserve, and there was notable opposition to the proposed road closure at Bell Reserve, particularly among nearby residents. I think it's just important that we acknowledge that level of feedback and ensure those concerns have genuinely been considered in the final design. So, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tuari. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Would now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll move to agenda item 10.5. Rates and Charges Financial Hardship Policy 2026. I'll call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Meredith.
Thank you. That council adopts the revised Rates and Charges Financial Hardship Policy 2026, shown at attachment 1.
Call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Just similar as before, only to say thank you to Mark and the team in the finance department for everything that they've done. I know that they've worked really hard on the budget and all of these items here as well, and it's impressive work, and he's definitely, and the team, they've definitely done a great job. Thank you.
Yep. Would the second like to speak to the motion?
Just to say that this is another one of those governance policies that doesn't get much attention but is really important, particularly for those people who do need to access it. Luckily, most of our residents don't need to access the hardship policy, but it is there if people do need to, and all they need to do is contact council, and our staff will sort of walk them through how they can access it. So I do encourage people who do need to use it because it's one of those important policies that's there when needed.
Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? So I think it allows for consistency, fairness and proportionality. The guidelines require councils to treat ratepayers experiencing hardship or financial hardship fairly, compassionately and proportionately, and to proactively engage with ratepayers before undertaking recovery or enforcement action. So that's a key point there. We'll now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to agenda item 10.6, Councillor Candidature at State and Federal Election Policy. Call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Thomas.
That council adopt the councillor candidature at state and federal election policy, shown at attachment 1.
I'll call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
I'll just say just one thing, really. I mean, it's a fairly self-explanatory policy, I think. It's a new policy, as far as I understand, and it clearly outlines, where the boundaries are, I guess, if a councillor is a candidate at a state or a federal election, and what that means for them as in their councillor role. And I just maybe just wanted to highlight something in the policy around leave of absence. So if a councillor is a candidate at state or federal election, they'll need to take a leave of absence, but that doesn't remove them from the office of being a councillor. And what we did include this year, because we'll have a mayoral election this year that kind of coincides with the state election as well, so that councillors will be requested to come back to the mayoral election, so that we make sure we've got a quorum, but two, councillors can exercise that their councillor role in what's probably one of the a very important decision for the councillor group to make together. So, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Seconder? And seconder like to speak?
Formally seconded.
Formally seconded.
Thank you.
I'll put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to agenda item 10.7, internal resolution procedure. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yengi? Saw you first.
Sure, that council adopt the revised internal resolution procedure shown at attachment 1.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally moved.
Seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. Moving on to agenda item 10.8, response to notice of motion 2025-08, road safety investment, new traffic signals at the intersection of Hampstead Road, Emu Road, Crefden Street, Maidstone. Call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yengi.
That council notes the response to notice of motion 2025/08, road safety investment, new traffic signals at the intersection of Hampstead Road, Emu Road, Crefden Street, Maidstone. Notes a 2026-27 capital works budget proposal to develop a business case, detailed design and costing for the signalisation of the intersection of Hampstead Road, Emu Road, Crefden Street, Maidstone. Requests officers to continue to investigate potential state and federal funding opportunities to support delivery of the project. B, advocate to the Victorian Government for funding support to deliver the signalised intersection upgrade. And C, continue working with the Department of Transport and Planning to further develop the project scope.
Thank you, Councillor Yengi. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Meredith. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'll say a couple of words. So most people that know me know that I'm really passionate about this intersection. In September 2025, I put forward this notice of motion in response to ongoing community frustration at the lack of action taken to make this intersection safer. And just by way of update to the community, about 10 years ago, Council received developer contributions totalling roughly 1.5 million for the development of this intersection. Unfortunately, this was never done, and as a result, the cost to implement this has since more than tripled. So since the motion was raised, we have been actively advocating to DTP, that's the Department of Transport and Planning, our local member Katie Hall and the previous Minister for Roads and Road Safety, Melissa Horne. I want to thank our local Footscray member, Katie Hall, who I know is doing a lot of lobbying behind closed doors to try and secure some of the funding required to get this work done. The good news for the community is that we have allocated some of the 1.5 million in the 26-27 budget to finalise detailed designs. This is a critical step in the process and means that we can be shovel ready. So essentially, it just means that we can get straight to work when we do get the funding that we are currently seeking. I know that last week the Premier announced a new cabinet and we have a new Minister for Road and Road Safety, so I'm also going to ensure via the Mayor that we meet with them pronto so that we can maintain momentum. Lastly, I have also spoken to officers, and it's noted in this report, to look into alternative safety measures such as temporary pedestrian lights and other measures in the event that we don't get the funding that's required for a fully signalised intersection. To the community, I just want to say, I know that we've been waiting for too long to get this done. So I really want to thank everybody for their patience, and yeah, just note that I am working really hard behind the scenes to push everybody that I can to try and get the funding that we need to get this work done.
Thank you, Councillor Yangi. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
I agree with everything that Councillor Susan has said there, and it's a really important intersection to get the job done.
Yep. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I will now put the motion to a vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 10.9, response to notice of motion 2025-09, road safety investment, new traffic signals at the intersection of Hopkins Street, Hellenstein Street and Moreland Road in Footscray. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Meredith.
Yep, thank you. That council note the response to the notice of motion 2025-09, road safety investment, new traffic signals at the intersection of Hopkins Street, Hellenstein Street and Moreland Road, Footscray. Notes a 2026 budget, 2026-2027 capital works budget proposal to develop a detailed design for the intersection of Hopkins Street, Hellenstein Street and Moreland Road, Footscray, and request officers to continue to advocate to the Victorian Government for funding support for the intersection upgrade. Finalise Hopkins Street corridor design in collaboration with the Department of Transport and Planning, and C, complete the detailed design and cost estimate for Hopkins Street, Hellenstein Street and Moreland Road intersection signalisation.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Can I get a councillor to second the motion? Councillor Thomas, are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Oh, hold on. I raised a question.
Councillor Tuari?
Yeah, I have a question through you, Chair, to the officers. In reviewing this item, I've referred to the Joseph Road Precinct Development Contributions Plan, including the Joseph Road Precinct Public Realm Plan and the Amendment C145 Incorporated Document, Joseph Road Precinct Development Contributions Plan, July 2019, both of which are available on Council's website. These documents clearly identify the signalisation of the Hopkins Street and Hellenstein Street intersection as a key infrastructure requirement, and on page 26 of that document under section 2.8 of the Public Realm Plan, it states that the intersection with Hellenstein Street is proposed to have a signalised junction design done by Oricon Group to improve pedestrian circulation. They also indicate that the broader precinct infrastructure was planned and costed at approximately $26.5 million through developer contributions, as outlined in Table 3 on page 14. Further, on page 18, Section 5, it states that Maribyrnong City Council is both the collecting agency and the development agency, and is responsible for the administration and enforcement of the DCP pursuant to Section 46 QC of the Act. I also note correspondence from Honourable Melissa Horn dated 23rd March 2026, which confirms that council officers attended a workshop with the Department of Transport and Planning, and that DTP supported the design and acknowledged that these intersection upgrades are funded and required under the DCP, with council responsible for delivery of DCP infrastructure. Given this, can officers clarify what has occurred since that time in terms of a developer obligations and delivery, including what contributions have been secured and what actions council has taken to enforce these obligations? And further, why Council is now needing to advocate for external funding and consider budget allocations for works that appear to have been planned within the original precinct framework. And how do we explain that shift to residents given the increase in cost over time?
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Tuari. I will hand over to the CEO.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, Councillor Tuari, there is a large DCP program that has been approved by the Minister for Planning for Joseph's Road. This particular project was never costed out and listed as with a cost associated with it for this project. As you know, and all councillors know, we're at least 40 million short in terms of all the things that have to be done at Joseph's Road. The negotiations regarding this funding, and I will say that Council Officers Patrick Jess, our Director of Infrastructure Services, actually initiated those meetings with DTP, so I might get Patrick to make a comment about where we're at with those negotiations.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. So yes, it is correct that officers have met with DTP staff, and including that workshop referenced by the Minister. But I could point out that since 2019 there has been significant cost escalation and changes to design standards and increased scope associated with particularly with arterial intersections, and the current estimated cost now materially exceeds what was originally allowed for in the DCP. But we have in principle approval on the design, and as mentioned tonight, we'll be proceeding with detailed design once that throughout next year.
Thank you, Patrick. Do you have a follow-up question, Pradeep?
I'm good, thank you.
Yep. Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So I'll do a little bit of commentary from the actual document as well. So Hopkins Street is a state-controlled arterial road. The intersection at Hopkins, Hallenstein and Moreland is currently uncontrolled, and so basically there's no traffic lights there, and it's really busy, and it is set to get busier. The area is growing rapidly with more residents, increased traffic, key bus routes, a major cycling corridor and rising pedestrian demand. Around 5,000 people already live in the Joseph Road precinct on the north side of Hopkins, with 3 additional towers currently under construction. The population is expected to grow significantly. On the south side of Hopkins Street, there's also additional apartments there. There's also a primary school there too, and the Assemble apartment project is also underway. This is a high-density activity centre, probably one of the first activity zones there. So a riverside location experiencing rapid growth. Crash data, which I know that's the technical term, indicates 1 fatality, 5 serious injury crashes in the past 5 years. And I would like to note the fatality was Frances J. Ramirez, who died on the 25th of November at that very intersection. And she was a person who lived within the Joseph Road precinct community there. Speeding, which is very persistent, it's definitely ongoing. Safety concerns at the intersection remain limited. The proposed upgrade is costed around $10 million, inflation. While some funding is available through DCP funding, it's not enough to deliver this project. Without state investment, delivery is likely to continue to be delayed, and the community's safety remains at risk. As Hopkins Street is a state-controlled arterial road, state funding is needed to deliver this upgrade. And I know that I've been asking a lot of questions and things like that behind the scenes as well, and doing a lot of lobbying where I can. And I know that Council has been doing a lot of communication there and meetings, and I would like to thank Pat for all the work. I know he's been doing a lot of work there, and Sheila as well behind the scenes with DTP and the Roads Minister, and it'd be great for the new Roads Minister to get up to speed with with this intersection and Hopkins Street in general. It's definitely needed. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meredith. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Then I will put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We move to agenda item 10.1, Governance Report, March 2026. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Yengi.
That council note the March 2026 governance report.
Call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Lamb. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Does the mover want to speak to the motion?
I formally moved.
Second, I want to speak to the motion.
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I'll now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. Moving on to agenda item 10.11, Councillor Support and Expenses Report, October 2025 to December 2025. I call for a councillor to move a motion. Councillor Lamb.
Office recommendation that council note the councillor support and expenses report for the October 2025 to December 2025 period, showing the attachment 1 to be made available via council's website for the term of council.
I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Formally second. Formally moved. Thank you.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Formally seconded.
Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We now move to agenda item 11.1, Notice of Motion 2026-04, Development of a Tottenham Station in South West Footscray Precinct Division. I call for Councillor Tawari to move his notice of motion.
Thank you, Chair. That Council 1 notes the strategic importance of the Tottenham Station in South West Footscray Precinct as a key transport, employment and residential interface area within the municipality, particularly in the context of current and proposed rail and freight infrastructure investment. 2, acknowledges the cumulative amenity, safety, environmental and freight-related challenges experienced within the precinct, including limited urban greening, pedestrian and cyclist safety issues, urban heat island impacts and heavy vehicle interfaces. 3, requests the Chief Executive Officer to prepare a report to Council that A, assesses the merit, scope and resourcing implication of developing a place-based Tottenham Station and South West Footscray Precinct vision and investment framework, and B, identifies how such a framework could 1, improve the public realm, quality, safety and climate resilience, 2, address freight and heavy vehicle interface impacts, 3, support equitable infrastructure investments across the precinct, 5, align the existing council's strategies, policies and planning controls, strengthen council's advocacy to state and federal governments, and 4, request that the report include recommended options for A, defining appropriate precinct boundaries, B, staging and prioritising of potential works and interventions, C, community and stakeholder engagement approaches, and D, indicative timeframes and delivery pathways subject to resourcing. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Tawari. I call for a councillor to second the motion. Councillor Lamb. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Chair. Councillors, with all the works currently underway in this area and the recent announcements of the Tottenham Station upgrade, which I thank our local member Katie Hall for being an advocate for, I think it's both wise and strategic that we look at the entire precinct in a coordinated way so we have a clear plan going forward. This motion is about one of the most complex and strategically important areas in our municipality, the Tottenham Station and South West Footscray Precinct. And before I go on, I just want to state that there's no such precinct at the moment called Tottenham and South West Footscray Precinct. It's just a vision for a name in my motion. This is also an issue that has been close to me well before I came onto council. Over the past year, I've spent time speaking with residents, meeting with community groups, and hearing directly about the challenges they face day to day. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the residents or citizens of Tottenham Group, the Friends of Stony Creek, and others who have taken the time to share their experiences and insights. What we are hearing is a consistent concerns around safety, heavy vehicle movement, lack of greening, and fragmented public spaces. Right now, these issues are often addressed in isolation rather than through a coordinated approach. This motion does not commit council to any immediate project or spending. It simply asks for a structured, evidence-based report so we can properly understand the scope, cost and opportunities for this precinct. If we are serious about improving livability and planning for the future, we need to move beyond reactive decisions and take a coordinated approach. I hope this motion gets the support of all councillors tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tiwari. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yes, briefly. I would like to commend the Councillor Tiwari for bringing this motion forward. And it is clear that has been well thought through and grounded in the both community feedback and a strong understanding of the challenging in this precinct. So it's importantly that it will improve the quality, safety for the resident and provide a strategy, policy, advocacy to the state and federal government. So this sort of exactly what kind of a strategy forward and looking work we would need as a council.
Thank you, Councillor Lam. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Pereira?
Yeah, sorry, I'll try not to cough. Yeah, I'm very keen to see what we can do in this precinct, including how we can better integrate the precinct with other parts of the municipality. I think there's enormous potential in this pocket, and unfortunately it's been taken for granted and essentially left in the too hard basket for far too long. I want to thank the community for their extensive work, particularly when life isn't exactly easy right now, and for rallying together and doing a huge amount of work. I'm very keen to see what is possible and very committed to working with you all and all the community to ensure really great outcomes. I encourage you to continue to develop your own ideas and objectives, and I look forward to seeing what you come up with and working alongside you to develop a long-term place plan for this precinct.
Thank you, Councillor Pereira. Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? I will now put the motion to a vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to agenda item 11.2, notice of motion, bike infrastructure. I call for Councillor Thomas to move a motion.
Thanks, Mayor. That Council 1 notes that Council will receive the draft Integrated Transport Strategy for community consultation at the May 2026 Council meeting. 2, receives a further report by the end of June 2026 for consideration by Council that identifies any options for a program of quick-win bike infrastructure in response to the current fuel crisis that supports sustainable travel choices and reduces reliance on private vehicles, namely A, considers rapid pop-up protected bike lanes on potential cycling corridors that details costing, budget implications and community engagement. B, consider within budget additional bike parking rollout at council facilities and activity centres across the municipality. 3, writes to the Victorian Minister for Public and Active Transport, the Honourable Gabrielle Williams, advocating for the Department of Transport and Planning to conduct a second round of pop-up bike lanes on strategic cycling routes. 4, writes to the Federal Minister for Climate Change and Energy, the Honourable Chris Bowen, requesting the Federal Government to provide a round of rapid grants to local government to support quick-win bike infrastructure, supporting travel choices and reducing reliance on private vehicles during the fuel crisis.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I call for Councillor to second the motion. Councillor Pereira. Are there any questions or points of clarification? Would the mover like to speak to the motion?
Just say a couple of things. You know, our community, like most communities, are feeling, I think, already the full impact of the current fuel crisis, either directly through purchasing fuel or via passed on costs from sort of the costs of doing increasing the costs of doing business. And unfortunately, it comes off the back of consistently increased rents, and also the last increase in interest rates for those people who have mortgages. And we know anecdotally that people are shifting their mode of travel from private vehicles to bikes, and personally as a bike rider I've seen a lot more people dusting off their bikes and riding around the municipality, whether that's to and from the train station perhaps to access the free public transport, or going to the shops or to school and places that they might otherwise drive their cars. And while a bike can provide financial relief, they also provide huge health, environment and social benefits. And it's also a lot of fun riding a bike as well. And so in order to provide support to our community to choose their bike, I think we need to ensure that we have on-the-ground infrastructure that allows them to ride safely and take up the opportunity to shift their travel, the way they travel around the municipality that the crisis presents us. And so the NOM asks for officers to prepare a report to bring to Council so that we consider some quick win infrastructure and name, in particular protected bike lanes, so things that can be put in quickly and also removed quickly if they need to be. And while local government has a role to play, so do state and federal governments, and that's why the motion also calls on state and federal governments to respond, to support local governments across not just Victoria but also across the country to implement some of these quick wins. And community may recall that during the COVID pandemic, the state government did respond quickly and put in a number of pop-up bike lanes across Maribyrnong and some other communities, which were, used by the community during that time and beyond. And recently, Council has turned some of those into permanent bike infrastructure as well. So this kind of sort of temporary intervention can actually lead to sort of future permanent bike infrastructure, which is a real investment in the future transport decisions of our community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Sure. Yeah, just to similarly remark that I've had a lot of people talking to me about dusting off their bikes and how to get around to different places. And one resident that was literally pumping up her tyres as I walked past her house, and we had a big chat about how she really wanted to get back into riding her bike, but it had been a while. And so there's some people I think in our community who are really keen to do something to contribute to this collective crisis that we face. And as we know, people are actually really good in a crisis, toilet paper hoarding aside, and they really want to reduce their fuel consumption so that it can be prioritised for food production and essential services. But also this is a great option as a cost of living measure to help alleviate the cost burden on vulnerable community members. I'm keen to see how we can make small interventions that enable greater participation in active transport and help people take advantage of connecting to free public transport and just around the local area. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pereira. Any other councillors want to speak to the motion? Councillor Yankee.
I mean, most of what I'd wanted to say has already been said, so I'll echo some of the sentiments already mentioned by Councillor Thomas and Councillor Pereira. I just wanted to, highlight or articulate to our community that, we understand the current fuel crisis and the impact it's having on the community, and we are really keen on exploring opportunities and ways in which we can support our community. And so through this NOM, we know that we won't be able to solve everything, but we're, any opportunity or any little bit that we can do to try and support our community during this crisis, we're definitely really keen to try and do something.
Thank you, Councillor Yankee. Anyone else want to speak to the motion? Yep. In that case, I also want to highlight that we're strengthening connectivity through the Maribyrnong Integrated Transport Strategy and investing in active transport and it is reflected in our budget this year, including 2.882 million overall, with just over $1 million for bike and pedestrian path design and construction, and $1 million for footpath renewal. As I've mentioned before, we are a rapidly growing community, and by 2050, our population will increase by 51%. So we should have some serious conversations around how people are getting around in our city and start exploring more sustainable modes of transport. So that's, our investment in our walking corridors, our cycling infrastructure, the frequency of our bus services. So all of these components, I think, are just as equally as important, and this will put us in the right direction. And I think we are heading in the right direction. I will now put the motion to the vote. Councillors, please cast your vote. I declare the motion carried. We now move to councillor question time. Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor question. Okay. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? There are no confidential business to be tailored at this meeting, and it has been a great meeting. We've done a lot of good stuff today. With that being said, I declare the meeting closed at 8:21 p.m.